Stop wasting your life. This is your wake-up call. There's a moment that hits you when everything goes quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, the heavy kind. The kind where you realize time has been moving, but you haven't. Days blending into each other. Dreams you once felt strongly about now sitting somewhere in the back of your mind, collecting dust. You scroll, you distract yourself, you tell yourself, I'll start tomorrow. But deep down, you know something is off. You feel it when you wake up tired without doing anything meaningful. You feel it when you watch others move forward while you stand still. And the truth is uncomfortable. Life is not waiting for you to figure it out. It's moving right now. Every second you delay, every excuse you make, every time you choose comfort over growth, it all adds up. This is not just another video. This is your wake-up call. Because if you don't change something today, you might look back years from now and realize you never truly lived. If this message hits you, subscribe to the channel. Not for me, but for yourself. So you don't fall back asleep again. You keep telling yourself you have time. That's the lie that's quietly ruining your life. You think you can waste today and somehow make up for it later. But later is built from what you do now. The habits you repeat, the discipline you avoid, the effort you postpone, it all becomes your future. There is no magical turning point where everything suddenly changes. Change is built in the small, uncomfortable decisions you keep avoiding. You don't need more time. You need more urgency. Because the truth is, time doesn't slow down for anyone. It doesn't care about your plans, your fears, or your excuses. It keeps moving. And if you're not intentional, it will leave you behind. You are not stuck. You're comfortable. And that's more dangerous than failure. Comfort tricks you into thinking you're okay when you're actually slowly losing your potential. You stay in routines that don't challenge you. You avoid risks because they feel uncomfortable. You choose distractions because they're easy. But nothing grows in comfort. Every version of you that you dream about, the disciplined one, the confident one, the successful one, that version exists outside your comfort zone. And the longer you stay where it's easy, the further you drift from who you could become. Discipline is not something you wait to feel. It's something you build by doing what you don't feel like doing. Most people fail not because they're incapable, but because they rely on motivation. And motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. But discipline? Discipline shows up whether you feel like it or not. It's waking up when you don't want to. It's working when you're tired. It's saying no to distractions when they're right in front of you. If you're waiting to feel ready, you'll be waiting forever. Start messy. Start tired. Just start. Your environment is shaping you more than you think. The people you surround yourself with, the content you consume, the conversations you engage in, they are either pushing you forward or pulling you backward. If you're constantly around negativity, laziness, or people with no ambition, it will affect you. Not immediately, but slowly. And one day, you'll realize you've adopted the same mindset. If you want to change your life, you have to be intentional about what you allow into your space. Protect your focus like your future depends on it, because it does. You say you want success, but your actions don't match. And that's the hard truth most people avoid. Wanting something is easy. Everyone wants a better life. But very few are willing to do what it takes consistently. You can't say you want to improve while spending hours doing things that don't move you forward. You can't expect results without effort. Your life is a reflection of your daily actions. Not your intentions. Not your dreams. Your actions. If you're not where you want to be, look at what you do every day. That's your answer. Fear is holding you back, but not in the way you think. It's not always loud or obvious. Sometimes it shows up as procrastination, as overthinking, as waiting for the perfect moment. You tell yourself you're preparing, but really you're avoiding. You're afraid of failing. Afraid of being judged. Afraid of not being good enough. But here's the truth, doing nothing is the biggest failure. Because at least when you try, you learn. You grow. You move. But when you avoid, you stay exactly where you are. And that's the real loss. You don't need to figure out your entire life today. You just need to take control of this moment. Stop thinking so far ahead that you become overwhelmed and do nothing. Focus on what you can do right now. One action. One decision. One step. Progress is built in moments like this. Not in perfect plans or big speeches, but in small, consistent effort. If you can win today, you can win tomorrow. And if you keep stacking those days, your life will change. The truth is, nobody is coming to save you. No one is going to show up and fix your habits, your mindset, your situation. That responsibility is yours. And that might sound harsh, but it's actually empowering. Because it means your life is in your hands. You're not waiting on luck. You're not dependent on someone else. You have control. But only if you choose to take it. And that choice starts now. You've been given time, energy, potential. And you're either using it or wasting it. There is no middle ground. Every day, you're either building something or letting it slip away. And the scary part is, you won't always notice it happening. Wasted time doesn't feel like a big loss in the moment. It feels comfortable, easy, harmless. Until you look back and realize how much you've lost. So here's the question you need to ask yourself, honestly: if nothing changes, where will you be in a year? In 5 years? If your current habits continue, if your current mindset stays the same, if you keep delaying the things you know you should be doing, what does your future look like? And more importantly, are you okay with that? Because if you're not, then something has to change. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Now. This is your wake-up call. Not the kind you ignore and go back to sleep. The kind that forces you to sit up and face reality. You don't have unlimited time. You don't have endless chances. What you do today matters. More than you think. If this message hit you, don't just feel motivated for a few minutes and move on. Do something. Take action. Even if it's small. Especially if it's small. And if you're serious about changing your life, subscribe to this channel. Not as a casual decision, but as a commitment to yourself. A reminder that you're done wasting time. That you're ready to grow. That you're ready to become someone you can actually be proud of. Because at the end of the day, no one else is going to live your life for you. So stop wasting it. You've heard messages like this before. You felt the spark, maybe even promised yourself things would be different. And yet here you are again. Not because you're incapable, but because you didn't follow through. That's the part nobody likes to admit. Change doesn't fail in the beginning. It fails in the middle. When the excitement fades. When it gets repetitive. When it's no longer inspiring, just necessary. That's where most people quit. Not because it's impossible, but because it's no longer comfortable. If you're serious this time, understand this: consistency will matter more than intensity. Showing up on your worst days is what separates people who change their lives from people who just talk about it. You need to get honest about your distractions. They're not harmless. They're not just ways to relax. They are stealing your attention, your time, your focus, the very things you need to build something meaningful. Every hour you spend consuming instead of creating is a trade. You're exchanging your future for temporary comfort. And the worst part? It feels normal. Everyone around you is doing the same thing. That's why it's so easy to justify. But normal doesn't mean right. If you want a different life, you have to be willing to live differently. That means cutting back on what's easy so you can invest in what actually matters. You keep underestimating how powerful small habits are. You think change has to be dramatic to be real. But that's not how it works. The life you want is built in quiet moments. When you choose to focus instead of scroll. When you decide to work instead of delay. When you keep your word to yourself even when nobody is watching. Those moments don't look impressive. They don't get applause. But they build something far more important: trust in yourself. And once you trust yourself, everything changes. Your confidence stops being fake. Your discipline stops being forced. It becomes who you are. There's also something you need to confront. You've been avoiding responsibility for your own life. It's easier to blame circumstances, other people, bad luck. And yes, life isn't always fair. But staying in that mindset keeps you stuck. Because if everything is someone else's fault, then nothing is in your control. And that's a dangerous place to be. You don't need perfect conditions to move forward. You need ownership. Even if progress is slow. Even if it's messy. Even if nobody notices at first. Progress is still progress. And it only belongs to people who take responsibility. You're going to feel resistance. That's part of the process. Your mind will try to pull you back into old habits because they're familiar. You'll feel tired, unmotivated, maybe even doubtful. That doesn't mean you're on the wrong path. It means you're breaking patterns. And breaking patterns is uncomfortable. But that discomfort is a sign you're growing. Don't run from it. Learn to sit with it. Work through it. Because on the other side of that resistance is a version of you that most people never get to meet. Stop waiting for validation. Stop waiting for people to notice your effort before you take yourself seriously. Most people won't notice at the beginning. Some might even doubt you. That's fine. This isn't about them. It's about you building a life you respect. The recognition will come later, but it should never be the reason you start. If you need applause to stay consistent, you'll quit the moment it gets quiet. Learn to work in silence. Learn to build without announcing everything. That's where real strength comes from. You also need to understand that growth requires sacrifice. You can't keep everything the same and expect your life to change. Something has to go. Maybe it's certain habits. Maybe it's certain people. Maybe it's the version of yourself that keeps making excuses. That's the cost. And most people aren't willing to pay it. They want change without loss. Progress without discomfort. Results without effort. But that's not how it works. If you want more, you have to be willing to let go of what's holding you back. There will be days when you don't feel proud of yourself. Days when you slip. When you fall back into old patterns. That doesn't mean you've failed. It means you're human. What matters is what you do next. Do you give up completely, or do you get back on track? One bad day doesn't ruin your progress. But one bad day turning into a week, then a month, that's where the damage happens. Learn to recover quickly. Don't let small mistakes turn into big setbacks. You need a clear direction. Not a perfect plan, but a direction. Wandering through life without intention is one of the fastest ways to waste it. You don't need to have everything figured out, but you should know what you're working toward. What kind of person do you want to become? What kind of life do you want to build? When you have clarity, your decisions become easier. You stop wasting energy on things that don't matter. You become focused. And focus is powerful. And let's be real for a moment, no one is going to hand you the life you want. Not your family. Not your friends. Not luck. If you're waiting for things to magically improve, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. The people who change their lives are the ones who decide that enough is enough. They stop negotiating with their excuses. They stop waiting. They act. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Right now you're at a crossroads. You can listen to this, feel inspired for a few minutes, and go back to your normal routine. Or you can let this be the moment everything starts to change. Not because of motivation, but because you've finally decided you're done wasting your life. So here's what you do next. Keep it simple. Pick one thing you've been avoiding, and do it. Today. Not later. Not when you feel ready. Now. Build momentum. Then do it again tomorrow. And the next day. That's how change happens. Not in one big moment, but in repeated action. If you've made it this far, it means something in you is ready. Don't ignore that. Don't bury it under distractions again. Subscribe to this channel if you're serious about becoming better. Not casually. Not just for entertainment. But as a commitment. A reminder every time you see a video that you chose growth over comfort. Because at the end of the day, your life is shaped by what you do consistently. And the question is simple. Are you finally ready to stop wasting it? Let's push this even further, because deep down you already know what's at stake, you just haven't fully faced it yet. Wasted time doesn't come back. Not in a week, not in a year, not ever. And the scary part isn't just losing time, it's losing the version of yourself that could have existed if you had used that time well. There is a stronger, sharper, more disciplined version of you that you keep postponing. Not because you can't become that person, but because becoming that person requires you to let go of the habits that feel comfortable right now. Every time you choose ease over effort, you're quietly voting against that future version of yourself. You've been telling yourself stories that keep you stuck. I'll start when I feel better. I need more time. I'm not ready yet. Those aren't facts. They're excuses dressed up to sound reasonable. Because the truth is simple: if it matters, you start before you feel ready. You start while it's inconvenient. You start when it's uncomfortable. Waiting for perfect conditions is just another way of delaying your life. And if you keep waiting, you'll wake up one day and realize you waited too long. There's also a pattern you need to break: overthinking without action. You spend time analyzing, planning, imagining, but not doing. It feels productive, but it's not. Thinking about change is not the same as changing. At some point you have to move. Even if your plan isn't perfect. Even if you don't have everything figured out. Action creates clarity. Not the other way around. You learn by doing, not by waiting. You need to raise your standards. Not in a superficial way, but in how you treat your own time, your own effort, your own life. Right now, you tolerate things that are holding you back. You tolerate wasting hours. You tolerate inconsistency. You tolerate giving up too easily. And whatever you tolerate becomes your normal. If you want a better life, you have to become less tolerant of your own excuses. You have to hold yourself to a higher standard, even when no one else is watching. Let's talk about energy. Not just physical energy, but mental energy. Where is yours going? If you're constantly drained, distracted, and unfocused, it's not random. It's a result of how you're living. Late nights, endless scrolling, lack of structure, it all adds up. And then you wonder why you can't stay consistent. You don't need more motivation, you need better energy management. Sleep properly. Protect your mornings. Give your mind space to think. These are simple things, but they make a huge difference. You also need to accept that this journey is going to feel lonely at times. When you start changing, you won't always have people cheering you on. Some people might not understand you anymore. Some might even feel uncomfortable with your growth. That's normal. Growth creates distance between who you were and who you're becoming. Don't let that pull you back. Stay focused. The right people will align with you as you grow, but you have to keep moving forward first. There's a version of discipline that people don't talk about enough: the quiet kind. The kind where you do what needs to be done without making noise about it. Without posting it. Without needing recognition. Just you, showing up, day after day, building something real. That's the kind of discipline that changes lives. Not the loud, temporary bursts of motivation, but the silent, consistent effort that nobody sees. You need to stop negotiating with yourself. Every time you say, "I'll do it later," you're making a deal with your weaker side. And that side is very convincing. It will always find a reason to delay, to rest, to avoid discomfort. If you keep listening to it, it will run your life. You have to start saying no to that voice. Not sometimes, consistently. Because every time you win that small internal battle, you become stronger. And every time you lose, you reinforce the habit of giving in. Let's be honest, you already know what you need to do. It's not a mystery. You've thought about it, maybe even written it down. The problem isn't a lack of knowledge. It's a lack of execution. So stop searching for new information as a way to delay action. You don't need another video, another plan, another idea. You need to apply what you already know. That's where the real change happens. And here's something most people don't want to hear: this is going to take time. Real change is not instant. It's built over weeks, months, years. There will be slow progress. There will be moments where it feels like nothing is happening. That's part of the process. If you expect quick results, you'll get frustrated and quit. But if you commit to the long game, you'll build something that actually lasts. Imagine this for a second, 6 months from now. You wake up with more clarity, more control, more confidence. Not because everything in your life is perfect, but because you've proven to yourself that you can follow through, that you can stay consistent, that you can do hard things. That version of you isn't a fantasy. It's a result. And it starts with what you do today. So don't just sit with this message. Don't just feel it and move on. Use it. Let it push you. Let it challenge you. Let it remind you that your time is limited and your potential is being tested every single day. If you're still here, it means you're not okay with staying the same. Good. That's where change begins. Subscribe to this channel if you're serious about growth. Let it be your anchor when motivation fades. Let it remind you why you started. But more importantly, back it up with action. Because no video, no message, no inspiration will matter if you don't do the work. This is your wake-up call. Don't ignore it again. Then let's strip away every last excuse, because at this point, you don't need more inspiration, you need confrontation. Look at how you spend your average day. Not the ideal version you imagine, but the real one. The hours you lose without noticing. The things you do that don't move your life forward even a little. That's your life. Not your goals. Not your plans. Your habits. And if your habits don't change, nothing else will. It doesn't matter how badly you want a better future, if your daily actions don't reflect it, it's not happening. That's the gap you have to close. You keep thinking you need a breakthrough moment. Something dramatic that flips a switch inside you. But that moment rarely comes. And when it does, it fades. Real change is quieter than that. It's repetitive. It's sometimes boring. It's doing the same right things over and over again until they become part of who you are. That's why most people don't stick with it. They underestimate how simple and how demanding it actually is. There's a version of pain you're choosing every day without realizing it. The pain of staying the same. The frustration. The regret. The quiet disappointment in yourself. And then there's another kind of pain, the pain of discipline. The effort. The discomfort. The struggle to push through resistance. You don't get to avoid pain. You only get to choose which one you live with. And one of those leads somewhere. The other keeps you stuck. You've also been too patient with yourself in the wrong ways. You forgive your lack of effort too quickly. You let yourself off the hook too easily. There's a difference between self-compassion and self-neglect. Right now, you're leaning toward the second one. Holding yourself accountable isn't being harsh, it's being honest. If you don't demand more from yourself, life won't magically raise the standard for you. Pay attention to how often you break promises to yourself. You say you'll start early, but you don't. You say you'll focus, but you drift. You say you'll be consistent, but you stop. Every time that happens, you weaken your own trust. And without self-trust, everything becomes harder. Discipline, confidence, focus, they all depend on it. So start small if you have to, but start keeping your word. That alone can change everything. You don't need to feel confident to act. That's another trap. Confidence comes after action, not before. You build it by doing things you weren't sure you could do. By showing up when you doubted yourself. By proving through action that you're capable. Waiting to feel confident is just another delay tactic. Move first. The confidence will follow. Another hard truth, nobody is thinking about you as much as you think. The fear of judgment that's holding you back? Most of it is in your head. People are too busy with their own lives to focus on yours. And even if they do judge you, so what? Their opinion doesn't build your life. Your actions do. Don't let imagined criticism stop real progress. You need structure. Not extreme, not rigid, but clear. Wake up with a purpose. Know what you're working on. Decide in advance what matters today. Without structure, you drift. And when you drift, you default to what's easy. Structure doesn't limit you. It frees you from wasting energy on constant decisions. It keeps you focused when your mind tries to wander. Let's talk about momentum. Right now, you might feel stuck because you're trying to change everything at once. That's overwhelming. And when something feels overwhelming, you avoid it. So simplify. Focus on one or two key actions. Build consistency there. Let that create momentum. Once you feel that shift, you can build on it. But you have to start somewhere real, not somewhere perfect. There will come a day, if you don't change, when this all becomes regret. Not dramatic, not loud, but quiet and heavy. You'll look at your life and wonder what could have been different if you had just taken action earlier. If you had just been more consistent, more disciplined, more honest with yourself. That's the future you're avoiding right now. That's what's on the line. But there's another future too. One where you took this seriously. Where you stopped waiting. Where you built something, step by step. Where you became someone you respect. That future isn't reserved for special people. It's built by ordinary people who decided to act differently, consistently over time. So don't overcomplicate this. Do what you said you would do today. Then do it again tomorrow. Cut the distractions. Face the discomfort. Stay consistent. That's it. That's the formula. If you keep looking for something easier, you'll stay exactly where you are. If you accept that this is the path, and you commit to it fully, your life will change. Not instantly, but inevitably. If you've stayed with this message all the way through, then you already know this isn't just another video to you. It's a line in the sand. Subscribe to the channel if you're ready to commit to that line. Let it be a reminder you can't ignore. But more importantly, back that decision with action. Because subscribing means nothing if your habits stay the same. This is your wake-up call. And at this point, the only question left is simple. Are you finally going to answer it, or are you going back to sleep? Then stop easing up on yourself, because this is exactly where most people drift back into the same cycle. They hear the truth, they feel it, and then they slowly slide back into comfort like nothing ever happened. Not because they're weak, but because they never made a clear decision. And that's what this comes down to now, decision, not emotion. Right now, you're standing at a point most people avoid. You're aware. You can see the gap between where you are and where you could be. That awareness is powerful, but it's also dangerous. Because if you do nothing with it, it turns into frustration. Then guilt. Then self-doubt. You start questioning yourself, not because you lack ability, but because you keep proving to yourself that you don't follow through. That's how people slowly lose belief in themselves. Not in one big failure, but in repeated inaction. You need to stop chasing comfort disguised as balance. Be honest, most of what you call balance is just you protecting your habits. Real balance doesn't mean avoiding hard things. It means handling what matters, even when it's inconvenient. You don't need a perfectly balanced life right now, you need progress. You need to build something. And that requires periods of discomfort, focus, and sacrifice. Trying to stay comfortable while expecting growth is the contradiction that's keeping you stuck. There's a level you haven't tapped into yet. Not because it's hidden, but because it's demanding. That level requires you to act without excuses, to move without hesitation, to follow through even when it's boring, repetitive, or difficult. Most people never reach it because they keep negotiating with themselves. I'll do it later. I'll start tomorrow. Just one more break. That constant negotiation is draining your potential. You don't need more flexibility, you need more decisiveness. You've also been underestimating how fast life can change when you finally lock in. Not in theory, actually. When your actions align with your goals, things start shifting quickly. Opportunities appear. Your confidence builds. Your focus sharpens. But none of that happens while you're half committed. You can't dip your foot in and expect results. You have to go all in, not perfectly, but seriously. Pay attention to this. The things you avoid are usually the things that would change your life the most. The work you keep delaying. The habits you keep resisting. The decisions you keep postponing. That's not random. That's resistance pointing directly at what matters. So instead of running from it, use it. Let it guide you. If it feels uncomfortable but meaningful, it's probably exactly what you need to face. You also need to stop identifying with your past behavior. Just because you've been inconsistent doesn't mean that's who you are. Just because you've wasted time doesn't mean you're someone who always will. But if you keep repeating the same actions, that identity becomes permanent. You break that by doing something different, consistently. Not once. Not when you feel like it. But repeatedly, until your actions tell a new story. There's no perfect version of you waiting somewhere in the future. That version is built, day by day, decision by decision. You don't become disciplined overnight. You become disciplined by choosing discipline in moments where it's easier not to. That's the process. And it's available to you right now, not later. Let's get even more real. Your time is being spent whether you like it or not. The hours will pass. The days will move. The months will stack up. The only question is, what are they building? Because they are building something. Either a life you respect, or a life you keep trying to escape from. There's no neutral outcome. You don't need another reset. You've had enough of those. What you need is continuity. You need to stop starting over and start continuing. Even if yesterday wasn't perfect. Even if today started off wrong. Keep going. That's what builds real progress, the ability to continue despite imperfection. At this point, it's not about motivation anymore. That phase is over. This is about identity. Are you someone who does what needs to be done, or someone who keeps avoiding it? That's the line you're crossing right now. And once you cross it, everything changes, not instantly, but fundamentally. So here's the reality you can't avoid. No one is coming. Nothing is changing unless you do. And deep down, you already know exactly what you need to do next. So do it. Not later. Not after this. Not when it's convenient. Now. And if you're still here, if you've stayed through every word, then don't treat this like content. Treat it like a turning point. Subscribe to the channel if you're ready to hold yourself to a higher standard. Let it remind you of the decision you're making right now. But understand this clearly, subscribing is just the signal. The real proof is what you do after this. This is your wake-up call. And this time, you don't get to ignore it. This is where everything becomes simple and uncomfortable. You've heard the truth from every angle now. Not to entertain you, not to hype you up, but to confront you. Because at the end of all of this, there are no more new ideas you need. No secret formula. No missing piece. What's left is execution. Your life is not waiting for you to feel ready. It's responding to what you do every single day. Quietly. Consistently. Without excuses. And whether you like it or not, you are already building something. The only question is, are you building a life you respect, or one you keep trying to escape from? You can keep doing what's easy. Keep delaying. Keep telling yourself you'll start soon. And nothing will change. Not your situation. Not your mindset. Not your results. You'll stay exactly where you are, just older, more frustrated, and more aware of the time you've lost. Or you can decide that this is where it ends. No more overthinking. No more waiting. No more breaking promises to yourself. You start doing what needs to be done. Even when you don't feel like it. Especially when you don't feel like it. You build discipline in silence. You stay consistent when it gets boring. You push forward when it gets uncomfortable. Not for applause. Not for validation. But because you've decided that your life is worth more than your excuses. This is not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming responsible. Responsible for your time. Your actions. Your future. Because once you take that seriously, everything begins to shift. Slowly at first. Then undeniably. There will still be hard days. There will still be resistance. But the difference is, you won't run from it anymore. You'll face it. And in doing that, you'll start becoming someone you can actually respect. So don't leave this as just another message you agreed with. Let it mark a decision. Right now. That you are done wasting your life. That you are done choosing comfort over growth. That you are done waiting to become the person you already know you can be. If this message meant something to you, subscribe to this channel, not casually, but as a commitment. A reminder that you chose discipline over distraction, growth over comfort, action over excuses. But remember this clearly: subscribing doesn't change your life. Your actions do. So after this, there's nothing left to watch. There's only something left to do. And it starts now.